Welcome to Jacksonville Entrepreneurs, guys. My name's Becca. We have Colby here, and we also have Courtney Hughes on the show today from the Will King Foundation. Courtney, do you want to tell us a little bit about the Will King Foundation?
Yeah, sure. So we are a local nonprofit in Jacksonville, and our mission is to support international children that are receiving heart treatment here in Jacksonville. So we work with an organization called Patrons of the Heart that has been around since 2005, and they bring children from developing countries over to Jacksonville to receive heart treatment that isn't available in their countries. And they all receive care in the CVICU at Wolfson Children's.
At Wolfson. Okay.
Yep.
Wow. That's really great. That's really great. Colby, where was your surgery at? Did you have it?
Uh, mine was in Chicago because
Oh, okay.
I was
Wow. Okay.
born. No, I was born in Chicago, and that's when my surgery took place. Because I just texted my mom because everybody thinks like I know everything about my heart surgery, and I absolutely know nothing really.
Were you a baby when you had it?
Yeah, I was 3, so I texted her, and it was my lower left chamber was not developed, and they put a stent in at 3 days old, and then they turned it off at 13 months old. It was never detected in any of my doctor's visits or ultrasounds. The doctor that delivered you was a resident and thought your heartbeat sounded different, so he kept you on 12 after 12 hours after birth. Is when when I started turning blue and for lack of oxygen, and then that's
Wow.
they figured it out.
Oh my
Um,
God.
so I have this big scar on my chest, obviously under my chest, and some people don't even notice it.
Mhm.
Because when I was young, I always assumed people would notice it, and just it was different to me. So it wasn't like cool to me as a young kid.
Yeah.
Uh, Now it's kind of cool.
Yeah, totally. You survived something amazing.
Yeah, and
Apple scars.
yes, and my parents always told me, I guess, that they told me like since I had this, I wasn't going to be able to play like football or run track or do like the stuff my brothers did.
Yeah.
Um, and they kind of just let me be myself as a kid with my brothers. Where
Mhm.
every I had to get a physical. I had to go see a cardiologist before signing up for football and track just to get the okay, and I always okay. So
That's great.
thankfully, like I was able to do all that stuff, and I still play flag football now. But I still monitor myself. But I do have high blood pressure as well.
Mhm.
So
But you haven't had any like major complications as an adult.
no, I'm supposed to. They said that I'm supposed to have surgery. I was supposed to have surgery when I was 30. Uh,
Okay.
but I'm 31, and I go to my cardiologist every year, and he says that every year, like, because I go to him next month or in June or July, and we do stress tests and stuff like that just to see because they don't want to do it too early because then I have to have it again, but they don't wait too late because of the tissue. Um, what's it called? Um,
Scar tissue?
Scar tissue. Yes, they don't want to like wait until the scar tissue is like bad or something either. So
Okay.
we're at that like medium stage of waiting to see when I'm supposed to have another heart surgery.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
That's
my.
amazing.
Something in common here.
Yeah, totally.
So what we really wanted to talk about was the like are the startups similar between a nonprofit and a for-profit? Like how did you get started into all of that? Could you like tell us a little bit about that process?
Yeah, the way that we started is probably very different than a lot of nonprofits. So I'm sure there's a lot of similarities that maybe we don't have with for-profit businesses that other nonprofits do. But it kind of started back in 2017 on December 1st. I had twins. They were our third and fourth children, named Caroline and Will, and they were healthy babies, but at their like first doctor's appointment when they were 6 days old, we went in and they had low body temperatures and jaundice. So our pediatrician sent us to the ER at Wolfson Children's just to get him checked out. And that whole day kind of took a sharp turn. They both like got there and they put him on the giraffe beds and like started doing all these tests and trying to figure out what was wrong. And they, long story short, they both ended up in the pediatric ICU at Wolfson Children's. And those first 2 weeks we were there, they were experiencing what's called multi-system organ failure. So it just means that like every organ in their body was basically shutting down. So they were in like heart failure, kidney failure. They were on ventilators for respiratory support. It was just like one thing after another, but we didn't know what was wrong with them at that point. And so it was probably about 10 days after we took them to the ER, a test came back that said they were positive for something called enterovirus, which is a really common virus. If like you or I got it, which we probably all have at some point, it would be like the common cold.
Yeah.
But since they were a little bit premature and they were newborns and they came in contact with it probably at 1 or 2 days old, they had no immune system to fight it. So it was just attacking everything in their body. And at that point, it was really good to know why they were sick, but it still didn't change anything like as far as treatment goes. So our daughter Caroline recovered and she came home on January 1st, 2018. And Will was in the PICU for another about 2 months. And then at the beginning of March in 2018, he just kind of took another really negative turn. And on March 6th, he passed away from heart failure due to that, all those complications from the virus. And after that, I listened to your podcast and I know you are both parents too. So you probably understand, like, you don't really know what to do at that point, like how to take a step forward into this new life without your child. And all we knew is that we wanted to do something to honor Will. So there was this one night, it was probably like a few weeks after he passed away, and my husband and I were sitting just like on our living room floor with my parents and talking about the whole experience. And we were all kind of in this place where we were like, we want to do something. Like, he was such an amazing baby. Like, he impacted so many people from all around the world who were praying for him, and just heard his story about how he continued to overcome when the doctors thought he wasn't going to. And that's all we knew. We wanted to do something. And that next morning, I just woke up with it on my heart that we needed to use Will's life to help another child that didn't have the same type of access to the care that he had. And so I called their cardiologist, who took care of them when they were in the PICU and has taken care of our daughter ever since after that. And he runs the organization that I mentioned earlier, Patrons of the Hearts. And I just told him, like, we want to do something to honor Will. Do you have any ideas? And he said there was a little girl named Avery from Grenada that was coming to Jacksonville in April. So this was really only about a month after Will passed away. And he said, if you want to raise the funds to sponsor her care, that would be a great way to honor Will's life. He loved Will and is just a really special doctor. So we hadn't really discussed doing anything like that, but I just knew that was the right thing. So I said,
it felt right.
It just, how else to honor your child than to help another child get a chance at life that they deserve. So we told our family and friends, and we sponsored Avery, and we just received still talking about it today, I just get chills because we received this just like amazing, generous outpouring of support, and it was way more than we needed to sponsor Avery. But we sponsored her. That was our first step. And I remember meeting her and her mom. All of the patients stay at the Ronald McDonald House right next to the hospital. And we went and met them there, and we went on a walk, and we were sitting by this park by the river, and I was just listening to her story, and she was telling me how when Avery had to have an echo, which, Colby, you know all about echoes, it's just like the imaging of the heart so that they can see what's going on. She told me that they had to travel all the way from Grenada to Trinidad just to get an echo. And I was thinking back, when our babies were in the hospital, it was as simple as the nurse would call down to an echo tech, they would be up there, and within 10 minutes they would have their echo. And I was like, this mom, they had to travel to a different country just to get a diagnosis. I was so naive to the state of medical care in developing countries. I just had no idea that that's what they had to go through just to see what was wrong with Avery's heart. And so that was kind of I would say like the start of the Will King Foundation, because at first we were just thinking we're going to sponsor this child in honor of Will. But then when I heard that, it's like once you know there's that big need, you can't not do something about it. So that's when we really kind of started deciding like, what is our mission going to be? What are we going to set up to support these children and their families? And it just kind of all went from there. So I don't know. I'm sure when people are starting like a for-profit business, there's a lot more research that goes into it, and there's more of like a planning period and a dream or something. I don't know, but ours was kind of just laid in our lap, and it was like we had to choose whether or not we were going to walk down that path or not.
Yeah.
And we obviously chose to. So, yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's so great, and it probably is fulfilling, like remembering Will and honoring his legacy to help these other kids. Like I couldn't imagine as a parent having to travel to another country to get a test done, you know, when I can just go a couple miles down the street. Like that, it just makes me realize the privilege that we do have, and that's really great. Like I think that's so awesome that you guys are doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's crazy. I grew up in Jacksonville, and I tell people like I still am a runner, but I was a runner in high school, and we did this loop and we went by Wolfson Children's almost every single day.
Yeah.
And I never knew what was happening in that hospital, and I never knew the privilege that we had to have it right down the street from us. And I hope that no one has to know what happens in there, but now that we know, and now that we know that we have this amazing blessing of having them here if our children do need it, it's like, it just doesn't seem fair that there are parents all over the world that don't have access to that care for their child.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's great. Any questions, Colby?
So like, when the doctor kind of introduced you to the little girl,
Mm-hmm.
and you wanted to sponsor her, how does that like work? Did you guys just do fundraisers, or like, you know, get on Facebook, or was it just something that you guys provided your own money, or did you kind of go out and, you know, say, hey, we're sponsoring this little girl, we'll take as many
Like
donations?
a GoFundMe or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when we first started with Avery, it was pretty much like we put out, I think we like sent out an email and put out like a message on Facebook and Instagram to our family and friends. And we said, you know, this little girl is coming and we want to sponsor her care in honor of Will. And then at that point, I'm pretty sure at that point is when I like threw together a quick website just so we could, my husband's work actually has like a donation platform where you can set up your own fundraiser. So that's what we used, because they don't charge any credit card fees.
Right.
With a lot of companies like, you know, PayPal and all that, you have a card fee that's charged, and we wanted to try to avoid that. So we just asked people to either like donate that way or send in a check. And my dad actually ended up sponsoring Avery just like in honor of it's his grandson, and he wanted to do that. But we raised so much more than we needed to sponsor Avery. So in the rest of 2018, we just kind of continued sponsoring children through Patrons of the Hearts, because we didn't really know like what direction to go. We knew that we wanted to set up like something official, but we weren't really sure what. So we ended up sponsoring another little girl named Paula in July of that year. And then at the end of the year, another little girl named Malia. So that first year we sponsored 3 children. And then at the end of the year is when we kind of like really established ourselves of like, this is our mission, this is what we do, and continuing to work with Dr. Ategi and Patrons of the Hearts at Wolfson to do all of those things.
Is that when you decided to call it the Will King Foundation, like at that point at the end of the year?
It's all kind of like fuzzy, like the timeline of it, but I think we called it the Will King Foundation when we started asking people to sponsor Avery, because we kind of knew like we want to establish something in his honor. We just didn't quite know it was going to be as big as it has ended up being. So yeah, we kind of started out with that name, but I don't think we were expecting it to turn into.
Yeah, well, it's so great, you know. I mean, I can't believe it, but so many people are in need for it. So it's such a great thing to do. Did you like how many kids have you guys done now, like so far?
So we So we kind of had to set it up where we have like kind of two different programs right now. One of the major blessings we've had is that one of my really good friends, Leah, has worked for a nonprofit like her whole career, and she has helped us through everything. And she sat down with us in the very beginning, like after we sponsored Avery, and we were like, let's keep going, like what do we do? We were like, Leah, help us. She asked this question and she said, do you want to make a small impact on many people, or do you want to make a big impact on a few? And I said both. So we kind of set it up where we can do that. So we do that like a big impact on a few by sponsoring kids. So we've done 2 to 3 every year since 2018. So we sponsored 3 in 2018, 2 last year, and then we sponsored 1 so far this year. And it's been a little kind of different with COVID-19 and everything, but we'll sponsor a few more when they're allowed to come back. And then we also wanted to set up a way to, like a small way to impact a lot of the families that come, because there's 12 international families that come through Patrons of the Hearts every year to receive heart surgery. So as a mom, I was just thinking, like, what if I was in this position and I had a sick child and I had to go to another country where I don't know anyone. A lot of these families have never been to the United States. Some of them don't even speak English. Right. And I just felt like part of why we could get through our experience in the PICU is because we had our community around us, and we had my parents to take care of our 2 older kids while we went to the hospital, and we had people bringing us dinners and, you know, just all that love and support around us, and these families don't. So we started a program called the Cane Kits, where we give like a cooler tote filled with stuff to all of the families that come through Patrons, and it also opens up a way to let them communicate with us. And if they want us to come visit and spend time with them, we love to do that. We've also partnered with our church, the Church of 1122, so that some members from their care team can come and, you know, sit with the parents on the day of surgery with their child in the hospital and, you know, go for a walk with them or whatever they want. We just want
the support system.
Yeah, like you can't bring your whole community from Grenada or Venezuela or Africa, like wherever they're coming from. But we're here for you, and we want to be your community while you're here. So that's kind of the way that we set up to make that kind of smaller impact on a lot of families that come for treatment.
Yeah.
So like with all the families that you've helped and stuff, do you still stay in contact? Like maybe like send letters like maybe once a year, or like during Christmas or like Thanksgiving? Or I mean, obviously I know it's not we help them and like we don't talk to you, but how do you stay connected with them, especially when they live in countries like that might not have like internet or a computer or something like that?
Yeah, it can be it's different kind of based on each family and country. For the most part, we've been able to stay in contact with definitely the first 3 that came, Avery, Paula, and Malia, because their moms all like came with them. Sometimes the children come by themselves, and so it's a little bit harder to stay in contact with them. But the moms, especially the ones from the islands, like a lot come from Grenada, Trinidad, and they have WhatsApp, so I've been able to stay in contact with them through WhatsApp. And a lot of them also have like Facebook, and we're friends on Facebook and can do Facebook Messenger. So we've definitely been able to stay in contact with the ones that their moms or dads come with them, and they have the technology available to do that. The one that we have not been able to stay in contact with as well was a little girl. Her name is Judith, and she's from a really rural part of Ghana. She came last summer, and she came by herself with a woman from another nonprofit that helps to run a hospital in Ghana. So the only contact we've been able to have with her is through that woman. And thankfully she lives in the United States, and I've been able to kind of keep in touch with her, and she has visited Judith once since she came for her treatment. So I've gotten one update on Judith, and that's kind of all. She is supposed to come back in a few years, I think, to get another surgery. So we hope to be able to see her again, but that one is especially hard because she lives in a really rural part of Ghana where even if her parents wanted to keep in contact, they don't have the technology to do that. So it kind of just depends on where they live and what
Right.
access they have to technology.
Okay.
What age are they at?
Is
Because
there like an age range that you try to target?
do they have well, do they have to be a certain age? Because you're saying that they travel by themselves. So like, are they like maybe teens, or do they just travel through the, I guess, the hospital provided?
So yeah, so Judith was 10 and she's the oldest child that we've sponsored. And she had someone with her, traveling with her. It just wasn't her family because I think it's because, I don't know, it was kind of hard to communicate with her because she didn't speak English, but I think it's because her mom had a lot of other children to care for at home. And so she did travel with someone. And then once she got here, the lady from the other nonprofit was kind of the one who was like overseeing her care and her treatment and was with her the whole time. So it's not like they're just put on a plane and sent over here. She had someone with
She
her.
was 10 years old, you said?
She was 10. She was the oldest. And then the other ones have been like 2 or under. So Avery and Malia were both babies. And then Paula was 2. And they're usually a little bit younger, and if they're older they might be coming back for like a second or third treatment because I don't know a ton medically about it, but I think a lot of them require treatment when they're on the younger side. So
That's so like
little.
brave of a 10-year-old to travel far from her everything that she's ever known for surgery with, with someone who will care for her too, but like away from your parents in those times, like during recovery and all that. Like I couldn't even imagine like the bravery that it takes to get through that.
Yeah, she's an amazing child. She she didn't speak English, and you could tell, like, we saw her multiple times during the time that she was here. And the first time we met her, she was like in the doctor's office for her checkup, and she was terrified. Like, we were bringing her king kit, and I come in, I got my 7-year-old, my 3-year-old, my 2-year-old. It's like all chaotic, and we're really loud and like overwhelming. And you could
Yeah.
tell she was just terrified. And then we had her over to our house, and she kind of, you could tell she was like softening up a bit, and she was getting more comfortable with her caretakers. And my son, like, he brought out all these puzzles, and they were like doing puzzles, and you could tell that she just felt a little bit more comfortable. And then the last time we saw them, she was smiling and like picking up my 2-year-old, and like it was just amazing to see the transformation of this
Yeah.
like terrified little girl to like totally comfortable, like kind of like she felt like she was part of
Part
our
of the
family.
family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it is like these kids all like have so much courage and bravery just to go through a surgery like that at such a young age. It's amazing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. I do have a question. Like when you got started, did you have to actually like pull a business license or anything? Does any of that like matter? Like the paperwork part?
So that was like kind of one of and it still is kind of a challenge for us. A lot of profits they apply for a 501c3 status. And when we started to go to do that, we found out like there's a lot of fees that come with that. There's a lot of taxes that come with that. You have to pay lawyers and like all of these people. So we decided to set ours up as a donor advised fund, which you basically just like set it up. We have it through Fidelity. So you just set it up through someone who will manage your account. And for now, since we're still small, that works for us. And since we're mostly donating to the Baptist Health Foundation, we're allowed to do that. But at some point, we probably will do the paperwork and switch over to an official 501c3 when we start trying to do the other goals that we have in mind. So yeah, all of that stuff, like I know nothing about any of that, and trying to figure all that out was.
It's definitely a mess in the beginning, like at least on like the for-profit side, like, there's all these forms and paperwork and everything that you have to fill out, and you got to take this here and then this here and then get this certified, and it's a bunch. I'm sure it's similar, it's just different routes.
Different paperwork and stuff. Yeah, it's a lot to figure out for sure.
So what's your next big step or something that you want to accomplish?
Yeah, so we were actually going to announce this big goal right before COVID like kind of took over. But we are looking to set up an endowed fund with the Baptist Health Foundation, because so Dr. Tegi, who runs Patrons of the Hearts, is this amazing doctor who has been doing this pretty much out of the goodness of his heart for 15 years because he's passionate about it and he loves these kids. But we want to make sure when he retires, there's someone else to take over the International Pediatric Heart Program. And we want to set up this fund. It'll to pretty much ensure that all international kids will always be allowed to come to Jacksonville to receive heart treatment, even in the future when Dr. Ategi isn't practicing anymore. So our goal is to raise $1 million to set up that fund, and then hopefully that'll help the program continue on forever. Yeah, so that's what we're looking towards next. And we've kind of postponed doing our big announcement and fundraising for it to the fall, but we are hoping for it to be like a 5-year goal.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds really great. I'm sure with, the right, like the sharing. I mean, that's really all it is right now is like social media, like just getting it really out there on social media. And I'm certain that with, enough like shares and likes and, everything that comes along with social media, that it will get the attention that it needs for sure.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
I feel I feel like you've been doing, like you've done, this is your 3rd podcast, maybe, I think.
Yeah, we've done a few. Yeah.
So I think like getting on podcasts and keep sharing your story, I think, as Becca said, like just letting social media do what it does pretty much, because you never know when the right person's going to listen to it.
Yeah.
Somebody because I think I saw you did the Moms of Jacksonville podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So we probably have different people that listen to our podcast from theirs. So you just never know who might just listen to it and say, hey, this is a great story. Let me call this person. So I think getting on and doing podcasts, especially podcasts now, because that's the big thing. Making sure you're obviously getting on the right podcast. Obviously, we're entrepreneurs, so we're looking at the business part of things.
Mm-hmm.
But since me and you kind of have that connection with the heart surgeries and going through that, and now thinking of somebody that doesn't have the resources that we had, so I can kind of understand like the nervousness of going into a hospital, because like even now I don't like going into hospitals.
Yeah, I don't know that anyone does.
It's not fun. Like my friend's a nurse, and I'm just like I couldn't be a nurse just because of I've been in a hospital so much. It's kind of like I don't learn again. So I mean I didn't know like we would have this connection because but now we do. So I think my question was I go on these rants, Becca calls them. I like start talking and then I forget where I initially started. But my question was kind of like, how do you guys manage doing the volunteering or sponsoring, but also maintaining like your full-time job per se? How does that balance? How do you balance that stuff out?
Yeah, like balancing like our home life with running the nonprofit kind of. Yeah. It's definitely been kind of an adjustment for sure. So I was a 1st grade teacher before I had our first son, and then I've been a stay-at-home mom for 7 years now. So I have kind of taken this on as my full-time job, but I obviously am still taking care of 3 children. So having to work it into my schedule has been kind of on me. Like I've had to figure out like when can I work on it, when can I kind of carve out time to do, because there's a lot of things that have to be done that you don't think about when you're just starting a nonprofit. Like you have to make a website and figure out social media and figure out how to fundraise and have events and like all of this stuff. But I would say mostly like I could not do this without the team that has surrounded us. And that's probably the biggest blessing through all of this, is that we just have an amazing community that has stepped in and said, we're going to support you and we're going to help you. And, when we have, a fundraising event, we have one an annual fundraising event every year. It's like when we're ready to do that, I just have been amazed at how people just step in and say, like, yeah, I will be on your event team. I'll be on your sponsorship team. Give me things to do. Like, tell me what you want me to do and I'll do it. And I'm like, I could not be doing this all by myself. So having those people step in and be willing to take on responsibilities, and like everyone has like their own talents and expertise. So like I have people that like used to run events, and I have people that used to work for nonprofits. One of my best friends used to work for the Tim Tebow Foundation in their marketing department. So she's like, just let me do that. Like, I'll do it for you. And I'm like, okay, because I don't know. I'm like, former teacher turned stay-at-home mom. Like, I don't know anything about this. So that I think has been really the way that we've been able to do it, is just by our community that stepped in and said, we'll take this for you, we'll take
So
that
it's
for you.
not really like all on you, it's
No,
everybody
it's not.
like helps each other, and that's really good.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's very helpful with, trying to balance like your home life and then 3 kids. Like I only have 2, and I have a 2-year-old and a 8-month-old. And
Oh gosh.
I'm about to pull my hair out, I swear.
Yeah.
But I love them with all of my heart,
Yeah.
and more.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to pull the kids in too. Like ours are old enough that like they like to come up and like pack the king kits with me and deliver them. And there's so many things that kids can do that, like, I feel like we just underestimate kids so much. Like they can do so many things. And I just saw that when we did our event last year. Like there were all these kids that came and they were so cute. They were like grabbing these volunteer, we had these like name tags for the volunteers, and they were like, I want to wear one, I want a job. And like, so all my son's little friends, like they're all like, kindergarten and first graders, they all have these volunteer tags on, and they're like handing out brochures and helping fill up
That's
the
so
kit. Like
sweet.
it's amazing. So I'm like, I have all these kids too, this whole army of kids that I think, a lot of times when we look to volunteering, we look at like teenagers that need community service hours, or we look to like wealthy adults. But kids can do so much and they want to help. And so we've had like all of these little kids running around doing stuff, which is so fun and such a
That's
great way to
awesome.
teach them how to serve and give back too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even with like as you said, like having the community that helps you,
Mhm.
like with my fear is it's like when people like offer to help you, you always think, oh, they're out for something, they're out for what they want. And
Mhm.
it's good that you found a good solid team that's actually there for you, and you not being afraid to say, hey, I have to take this chance and use this person to set up events, maybe do the social media, and do stuff like that. Just because like on my end is kind of like I've always feared that, oh yeah, they're good at this, but like, are they really in it for me at that time, or they're just in it for their agenda? So were you kind of nervous with that when people started offering like helping you?
It kind of depends. Like if it was someone that I really didn't know, because there would be people that would reach out and be like, oh, I know so-and-so that and I heard about your foundation and I want to help you in this way. And so when it was a situation like that, I would kind of take my time with them, and really get to know them first and make sure that they understood our mission and understood what we were trying to accomplish before kind of like going all in with those people. For the most part, it's been people that I've known previously and were there for us when our children were in the hospital and were part of that community that was supporting us then. And it's kind of just overflowed into a lot of the same people that are still supporting us now. So I already trusted a lot of them. And there were people that I would call on, like that I knew had a specific background in something, and maybe I wasn't like had a super close relationship with them, but I knew them well enough to know, if I ask them to do this and they say yes, then they're going to be a good person for that job. So it kind of just depends, but I definitely can understand what you're saying. And I think I don't know if maybe it's a little bit different when there's money involved. Like as a for-profit business, you're obviously paying people that are working for you. And if you have employees, like they expect something in return. But as a nonprofit and the place where we are right now, like we don't have paid employees. Everyone
Right.
who's helping us is a volunteer, and they're doing it because they care about it. And that, like, if we ever, I hope we get to the point where we're big enough to have paid employees and have like a legitimate staff. But for now, like we're just at the point where people are doing it because they care about the mission too. And I think that's been like the most special thing to me as a mom and as someone who's trying to make an impact and a difference in the lives of other kids and their families, is that people would care about the thing that I care about as much as I do. Because a lot of times, like, no one cares as much as you do when you're starting a business. It's like, this is your thing and your dream. And when you have other employees or need other help, it's like they might care, but not as much as you. Like, you're the
Right.
one, the vision and the dream and the drive to do it. So finding those people who care as much as you do is really rare, I think, and really special.
Yeah, I mean, I treat mine like my baby. I mean, I have a 10-month-old,
Uh-huh.
as my wife says,
Oh,
and then like he's almost 11 months, but I'm like he's still 10, so that's little. Um,
you gotta keep them little as long as possible.
so I treat my business as like my baby because it's kind of like because I have a friend that's a football coach and like even like with offensive coordinators or defensive coordinators, it's kind of like still like if something happens on the football field, like he's gonna get the heat, even if it's not even his fault. So like I tell everybody like it doesn't matter whatever you do, it comes back to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can understand that finding people that they like it, but it's
Yeah.
still like you're the face of the company or the foundation. So you
Mm-hmm.
find people that understands like this is really important to me.
Yeah,
I need you to take it serious, especially volunteers.
for
And
sure.
well, volunteers I feel like would be different than like employees
Yeah.
because well, I guess it depends on the type of volunteer because if you're getting someone that needs the community service, they might start off as like, this is whatever, but then it might grow on them.
Yeah.
Uh, and then with employees, I guess it just